The following article appeared in Volume 8, Number 2 of our publication, the B&M Bulletin, from winter 1978-1979. The Portsmouth Naval Shipyard of Kittery, Maine has long been a hotspot for submarine operations, and it was here that one of the most unusual operations that the Boston Maine ever became involved in took place on February 3, 1927. It seems some 2 years earlier, on the night of January 29, 1925, U.S. Navy submarine S-48 was driven onto a sandbar near Newcastle by a powerful nor'easter. Fortunately, the crew of 40 men was rescued after spending a harrowing night in a partially submerged submarine. Tugs were able to tow the vessel to Portsmouth Naval Shipyard a month later, and there she lay for 2 years while the Navy brass decided what should be done with her. Only 3 years old at the time of the grounding, S-48 was deemed worthy of rebuilding, but the major stumbling block was how to get the 266-foot submarine out of the water and into the repair shop. Lieutenant Carlton Shug, a 27-year-old Annapolis graduate, came up with a plan that involved 3 Boston and Maine steam locomotives and an array of pulley blocks and cables. The plan was studied by the top brass and eventually given the go-ahead. Elaborate preliminary work had to be performed in order to ready the submarine for its short trip up the 30-foot incline ramp into the ship house. A wooden cradle was affixed to her hull, and a great steel hook was fastened to the front where pulling cables could be connected. Careful placement of the pulley blocks would provide the increased hauling capacity needed to supplant the force provided by the 3 locomotives. Finally, on February 3, 1927, at about noon, all was ready. 3 060 switchers, number 222, 413, and 426, were coupled together at the far end of the 7,000 feet of 1-inch cable. A Navy truck containing telephone communicating equipment stood alongside to relay signals from various points along the line. The command to begin was given, and slowly the 3 locomotives began to take in slack on the cable. Then the work became an effort, as the 700-ton dead weight of the submarine strained the lines. Ever so slowly, as hundreds of spectators and officials watched, submarines slowly began to move up the ramp. The straining locomotives alternatively slipped and caught their footing, sending clouds of smoke and steam high into the air. Back and back they eased, some 2,500 feet in all, until finally S-48 was resting safely inside the ship house. The actual work had consumed only about 15 minutes. To those watching with their fingers crossed, it had seemed like hours, but the gamble had paid off. The S-48 was rebuilt successfully and launched again to serve many more years to the end of World War II. The 3 little locomotives, their moment of glory ended, disappeared back into their mundane daily chores. And so the story ends. As an afterthought, it occurred to us that perhaps if the U.S. Navy still feels they owe the Boston and Maine a favor, they might offer to pull the B&M's 462 number 3666 out of the Piscataqua River at Portsmouth. After all, fair is fair.